Hi, welcome to another edition of The Connector with Tracy G. I am Tracy G, and today I have a special guest, Albert Allick. He is an enrolled member of the Turtle Mountain Band of Chippewa and a board certified psychiatrist. So, welcome.
Thank you, Tracy.
Yes.
Glad to be here with you.
Yes, and today we're just going to talk about three key Native American beliefs that could benefit, all of us. So, and I just want to say a little disclaimer that this is just one perspective from Albert here, and all tribes have different beliefs, and this is just one take on, a very vast, majority of different tribes. So anyway, so the first thing we're going to talk about is gifts. That's the first key Native American belief that you feel would really help benefit people. So tell me about that.
Well, a lot of times when I work with Native American patients and just working with Native American people, one of the common trends that they all have a belief that they all have a gift, that they believe that they were put on this universe and there is something special that they were given to help keep the balance and harmony in this world, and that is their gift. And a lot of times that's often a struggle, especially given that there's a lot of trauma at an early young age with Native people, that they often learn to suppress themselves rather than being able to nourish and be confident and sharing that gift with them.
Okay. Can you give me an example of like one of these gifts and how they would use it, or?
Well, I am a strong believer. My gift is truly to be a psychiatrist. I've always known that. I somehow have the ability to establish rapport with patients really quickly, as well as just the ability to take huge Western concepts and terminology and make it simple for people to understand. And also, too, I know when I'm utilizing my gift because it comes easy. And going through medical school, most doctors, they always say, well, once you get to clinicals, you'll really like this. I hated going through medical school. The only thing that came easy and natural for me was psychiatry. And that was really the basis of my gift. And I knew that this is what I am supposed to do.
One of the things that when we were just chatting before we started here is you were telling me that you are a little different than a lot of psychiatrists in that you don't medicate a lot.
So, well, I think medication is important as part of psychiatry, but really I always look at the underlying issues of, what stopped us from growing healthy. Mm-hmm. And a lot of that, meds aren't going to fix that. And a lot of times you could see people get emotionally arrested at a young age and maybe not to develop to their full potential. And one of the big things that I strongly believe, which has led me to pursue a lot with yoga, is because what I love about yoga is that yoga really takes prana, life energy, and through movement we come to learn to live our true self. And I think that is often a barrier that patients will have. And, the Buddha says that when we suffer, it's because we're not living enough of our true self. And I think people with mental health issues such as depression, anxiety, or early childhood trauma, whatever that may be, it doesn't allow us to live our true self. And so sometimes we have to go back to that basis in the beginning to understand what happened that prevented us from growing healthy. Mm-hmm. I think also as a Native American psychiatrist, I've learned that part of my training as also as a Native person is the ability in looking at trauma, in which we believe that there is the spirit, the body, and the mind, and that when trauma happens, it often the spirit's job is to connect the body and the mind, and so there's a disconnect, and that spirit kind of hides out. And so one of my abilities I feel that I possess is to be able to connect to that spirit and allow that spirit to come forward to make that reconnection.
Oh, nice.
And so that's one way that how I feel like this is my gift and how do I utilize it.
Very nice. And we're gonna try to keep this down to like 15 minutes or so. So if you would like to hear more on any specific thing that we talk about, let me know in the comments down below, and we're definitely going to be doing another one. What were you saying that you're thinking we might want to do And if you can't think of it right now, I can. I just kind of put them on the spot.
Yeah, there's a lot of thoughts that I can think of.
Well, anyway, so we'll probably come back and do some other key points on another video another time. But so the number one for this time is gifts. The second one you were talking about is social individuals versus individual to social thinking behaviors and how they're different for Native Americans.
One of the big things that you often struggle with is that the underlying concept that Native Americans believe to be strong person on the inside and to be able to take care of all your family. And so in a lot of cultures, they often think that social needs have to be met before they will start taking care of their individual needs, which is very different from the Western culture where individual needs are always taken first.
Right. When we first met, you were telling me about this person who you were trying to get on diabetic medication, and that they wouldn't come in, they weren't taking, they just need to make the appointment and come in and get started, and they weren't doing that. And how that actually comes back to a Native American belief system that they come last. Their family has to come first, so they're not going to take care of themselves until their families get taken care of first. So really, you need to look at their family members, make sure they're all taken care of before you get that individual in.
Right.
Correct?
Right.
In which I was like, wow, that's...
So a lot of times, if the patient does have diabetes, they might have a grandmother with dementia, or they may have a special needs child, and if those children's needs are not met, or that grandmother's needs are not met, then the patients will not take care of themselves until those needs are met. And I think in Native American culture, it was a great concept that to have that value to give to others and to take care of other people's. But in order to take care of other people, and I often spin this with Native Americans that I work with, to really focus on, in order to have that value, you have to be healthy. Because if you're not healthy, then you're only perpetuating dysfunction and making things worse. And so a lot of times, Native women that I work in a lot of situations, if you let them know that to be that great mother, to be that strong woman, you have to be healthy in order to do that. Right.
You need to perpetuate, because they're watching what you're doing.
Correct.
So if you're not taking care of yourself, then they're going to think, well, I don't need to take care of myself either, so it's kind of a, do as I say, not as I do. They're more doing what you see, what they're seeing instead of what you're saying. And that happens in all cultures, I think.
And like we were talking about earlier, this was probably another topic about historical trauma and how all that plays a role, and how some of the core values that Native American have, it's hard to express them now because they're traumatized people for a lot of Native Americans. And again, just clarifying that, this is just a population of people that I work with. It doesn't mean that all Native Americans are dysfunctional or cannot function.
Right.
It's just that these are some core things that I deal with as a physician that works with Native people that I have to address. So, and so going back to our first topic about bringing that gift out, that's what's so critical about it, is because letting them to find value and letting them find their true self and letting them learn what is truly them, and so that makes them a stronger person in order to do the work they need to, because there's a lot of work in Indian community.
And me, as an energy worker and a mind, body, spirit person, that I work on my clients and try to help them raise their vibration or release blockages in their body so that they can become their authentic self. So I think it's it's the same situation on two different coins, I mean, it's like, it's very important, I think, worldwide for us all to get to know our authentic selves now and not be afraid of who we are, and to not hide behind, victim mentality, thinking, well, I can't do this because this person's in charge, or I can't do this because I need to do this first, to kind of take responsibility for your own health and your own well-being. And saying, I am worth that too, and I can't take care of the people in my life if I am falling apart, right? So,
and I think that really is really that core concept of bringing, and it goes into almost like our next topic, which is a lot that spirituality component.
Right.
And I think the other concept is that there's multiple ways to get the same result.
Right.
And I think that's the key thing is it's not every aspect or other coping skill is going to work for that person.
Mm-hmm.
Some people, and especially like with the Indian community now, when we talk about spirituality, that's really what has perpetuated Native Americans to survive all of the historical trauma that a lot of them experienced was that spiritual component. It's a strong point, but now there's all those components that not all Native Americans are traditional.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of Catholicism, there's a lot of Methodist, there's a lot of ways in which our spirituality forms and, and has influence on us. But again, it's that same concept that you need to accept all of you, whatever you utilize to get you to that healthy state.
Right.
And we can't just always assume that natives are traditional. And I think a lot of them do a complex, and I think that I often talk about cultural diversity and cultural sensitivity, and really if you look at all cultures and belief systems, they're basically core beliefs such as our 7 spiritual concepts that we believe in as Turtle Chippewa people.
Okay, what are those? I'm curious on what those are.
Well, you put me on the spot now. But a lot of them are like honesty, wisdom, bravery, courage, off the top of my head, and living your life in that way. And I'd have to go back and look at
That's okay. We can do another whole video on that.
Right.
But one other thing that I was raised Lutheran, but I personally have, as I've shifted and learned more spiritually, I've become more of a shaman / Buddhist kind of a person. And if you don't know what that is, shamans basically believe in, that everything is one. We are part of the earth is part of us. Everything is connected, everybody is connected, so you should not harm others because then you're harming yourself. Yeah. And then the Buddhist part of it, which, tell about your story a little, about your history.
Well, we could actually touch bases a little bit about this. Yeah. That is one of the core with all Native communities, that we are connected in this universe and that we are part of this earth and we're part of this whole big universe being, and this goes back to that gift that's so critical. And the other aspect for me is like I have a unique history too. My mom is Turtle Mountain Chippewa, and she would say Anishinaabe or Métis or Michif, and she was traditional, but she doesn't really acknowledge that. But she also has forced Catholicism and she has strong Catholic beliefs. Well, my dad is Middle Eastern, and he has a Muslim background. Okay. And for me, I feel like I'm an eclectic of all of that. There are moments that I still will do the rosary. There's still, I will smudge. I will, pray to the Great Spirit. I get connected to the earth. But the other thing where I find there's a commonality too is strongest with Native American is Buddhism. Okay. And, it's that philosophy of finding that individuality and letting that individual grow on its path. And, it was just a self-healing for me. And there's so much thoughts about Buddhism right now. Yeah. That it's just hard to touch on such a short time. But I think it's just opening that door that we were talking about, that we can always expand on these topics. But it was just an intro. Well,
one of the things that I find as I move forward is that it comes down to love versus hate, or those higher vibrational, emotions, love being one of the highest ones, contentment, gratitude. The Buddhists want you to live in those higher vibrations of being kind to others, don't judge.
Yeah. And it's about acceptance too, I think. And, I think one of the great thoughts my mom used to always tell me is, not to try to have too much knowledge before your time. Okay. And she'd always say, as I was going to medical school, she would always say that, and she'd always call me my baby. So she said, my baby, you're trying to learn too much before your time, which then evoked anxiety. Right. And so where the Buddhist is come to the moment, come to the present, and live here. Right. Because we don't know what the future holds, we don't know what the past holds, but we learn to live mindfulness. And, this is what got me mindfulness-based cognitive behavioral therapy, which really started leading me down my path of being in the moment, being present, and then getting into yoga and how do I heal from traumatic situations in my own life as well as, how do we come back to finding that true self, and how do we live that true self?
Right.
Because the Buddha says we can only be happy when we are living the true self, and when we don't live the true self, we have suffering. And I think a lot of times, again, that's where we see depression, we see anxiety, we see mental health issues, when we're not living enough of that true self.
Yes. Okay, well, I think, 15 minutes, right on the dot. All right. Did you have any parting words or?
No, it's new experience for me, so it's been
Yes.
great to be able to share some of my thoughts.
Yes, and thank you for coming and doing this for me. I appreciate it, and I will, we'll definitely get together and figure out another topic another time. Thanks again for coming and watching, and we will. This is the Tracy. This is the connector, Tracy G, and this is Allick, and we thank you for watching.